Kendra never thought her family would fall apart in the middle of a storm. Kendra stood in the living room, her hands shaking. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't breathe. The sound of heavy rain hitting the windows filled the silence between the shouting. "I can't take this anymore," Marcus yelled. His voice was sharp, angry. Kendra, 34, looked at him with tired eyes. Her whole body ached from working a long shift and running after the kids. She had just gotten home, hoping for a quiet night, but it turned into another fight. "Marcus, please," she said softly, her voice breaking. "The kids are sleeping." "No, they're not," he snapped. "They're always watching, just like I'm always working while you sit here and complain." "I don't complain," she said. "I take care of everything. Liam, Aria, the house, work." "You think I care?" he shouted, grabbing his jacket. "I'm done. I'm leaving." Kendra's heart dropped. "You're leaving? You're really going to walk away from your own kids?" He turned to face her, eyes full of coldness. "Let someone else deal with." From the hallway, their son, Liam, 7, peeked around the corner. His eyes were wide with fear. His little sister, Aria, 4, stood behind him, holding his hand. Her teddy bear dropped to the floor. Kendra stepped in front of them and raised her voice for the first time. "You're their father, Marcus!" Marcus laughed, a mean, bitter laugh. "No man will ever want a woman with 2 kids, he said slowly, like he wanted each word to hurt. "You're damaged goods." Then he slammed the door so hard that the walls shook. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky. The rain poured harder. Inside, the silence hurt more than the shouting. Kendra stood still. Her hands covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't cry loud, just soft, broken tears that came from deep inside. Liam and Aria ran to her and hugged her legs. "Is Daddy gone?" Liam asked in a small voice. "Yes, baby," Kendra whispered, bending down and pulling them close. "He's gone." The 3 of them sat on the floor. Aria climbed into her lap and buried her face in her shoulder. Liam leaned against her side. Kendra held her children tight as the storm outside roared. She felt like her whole world had just fallen apart. But even in that moment, heartbroken, tired and lost, she made a quiet promise to herself. She would not break. Kendra once believed Marcus was the love of her life. She met him on a sunny afternoon at a small music event in the park. He was charming, funny, and full of life. He made her laugh like no one else could. For the first time, she felt truly seen. Their relationship moved fast. Within a year, they were married. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had big dreams. They talked about starting a family, building a future, and growing old together. When she found out she was pregnant with their first child, Liam, Marcus was overjoyed. He talked to her belly every night and promised to be the best dad. 2 years later, their daughter Aria was born. At first, Marcus was still there, still smiling. But slowly, things began to change. He started staying out later. He seemed annoyed with the kids, frustrated by the noise, the mess, the endless needs. When the baby cried at night, he turned away and pretended not to hear. When bills piled up, he blamed her for not doing enough. "You're home all day," he once snapped. "Why can't you handle things?" But Kendra wasn't resting. She was barely sleeping. Motherhood had swallowed her whole. She didn't go out anymore. She stopped doing things she loved. She gave up her job to take care of the kids and the house. But no one noticed how lonely she felt. Her world got smaller and smaller, and Marcus grew colder with each passing day. The man she had married was fading away, and she didn't know how to bring him back. Now, Kendra is alone. Marcus left during a storm, throwing cruel words at her before slamming the door and disappearing. Since that night, she has done everything on her own. She works 2 jobs to make ends meet. In the morning, she takes care of Liam, now 7, and Aria, now 4. She gets them dressed, packs their lunches, and walks them to the bus stop before rushing to her first job at a local diner. Her manager, Mr. Clark, doesn't care about her struggles. When she's late, he rolls his eyes and says, "This is a job, not a daycare." After her shift ends, Kendra rushes home to help the kids with homework, cook dinner, and tuck them in. Then she heads to her second job cleaning office buildings at night. She usually doesn't get home until after 11 p.m. Her body is always tired, but she keeps pushing herself for her children. She doesn't complain. There's no one to complain to. The city moves fast, and most days it feels like she doesn't even exist to the world around her. Kendra doesn't go out. She doesn't smile much. She avoids mirrors. She wears old clothes and ties her hair back without looking. The words Marcus said still live in her mind. No man will ever want a woman with 2 kids. Sometimes she believes him. She feels broken, unwanted, and invisible. She's forgotten what it feels like to be loved. Her best friend, Jade, tries to remind her who she really is. Jade is tough, honest, and doesn't let Kendra hide. "You're stronger than you think," she says while helping fold laundry. "You've made it this far. That means something." Sometimes Jade brings groceries when the fridge is empty. Other times, she just sits with her. No words needed. Pastor Williams, a kind man from a nearby church, also helps from time to time. He drops off food, helps pay bills when he can, and always reminds Kendra that she's not alone, even when she feels like it. He never asks for anything in return, just kindness and soft words, something she's not used to anymore. Even with support, life is still hard. The weight of being both mother and father, of working non-stop and never having time to breathe, is heavy. But every night, when she tucks in Liam and Arya, when she hears them laugh or watches them sleep, something in her heart stays alive. It's small, but it's there. Hope. Kendra may be tired. She may feel lost and invisible, but she's still standing. And somewhere deep down, she knows she's not done yet. At her second job, Kendra cleaned offices late at night when the buildings were mostly empty. It was quiet, and sometimes that made her feel even more alone. One evening, while emptying trash cans and wiping desks, she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me," the man said kindly. "I didn't mean to startle you." Kendra turned around quickly. A tall man with a warm smile stood by the doorway. He wore a dress shirt, no tie, and held a stack of papers. He didn't look annoyed or impatient like most people she ran into. "I'm David," he said. "I'm the new regional manager. Just got transferred here." Kendra nodded, unsure what to say. Most people in offices barely noticed her. "You don't have to worry about me being in your way," he added, with a smile. "You do your job. I'll stay out of it." She gave a small smile back and quietly returned to cleaning. But over the next few nights, David kept saying hello. He asked how her day was. He even offered her coffee once. He never looked down on her. He treated her like a real person. Kendra didn't know how to react. She wasn't used to kindness, especially from a man. One day, everything changed. Kendra was in the middle of her morning shift at the diner when her phone buzzed. It was the school nurse. Arya, her 4-year-old daughter, was having trouble breathing and had a fever. Panic filled her chest. She begged her manager to let her leave early. He rolled his eyes but didn't stop her. She rushed to the school, but traffic slowed her down. By the time she arrived, the school staff looked annoyed. "You should have been here sooner," one woman said sharply. "She needed you." Kendra wanted to cry. She held Arya close, heart racing, and called a cab, but none were nearby. Her old car had broken down weeks ago, and she couldn't afford to fix it. Just then, a car pulled up. To her surprise, it was David. He had seen her rushing out of the diner earlier and had followed, sensing something was wrong. "Need a ride?" he asked gently. Kendra hesitated, but nodded. She didn't have time to argue. He opened the door, helped her get Arya in, and drove straight to the hospital. At the hospital, the nurse said they needed to run some tests. Kendra's hands shook as she handed over her insurance card. It didn't cover everything. The receptionist asked for a payment up front. Kendra's heart dropped. She didn't have the money. David stepped forward and handed over his credit card without a word. "You didn't have to," Kendra whispered, stunned. "I wanted to," he said simply. "Your daughter needs help. That's what matters." They sat in the waiting room while Arya was being checked. Kendra stared at the floor. Her thoughts were loud and messy. Marcus's voice came back in her mind, cruel and cold. "No man will ever want a woman with 2 kids. You're damaged goods." Why would David help her? What did he see in her? She was just a tired, broken woman barely holding on. She glanced at him. He wasn't looking for thanks. He didn't ask personal questions. He just sat quietly beside her, offering calm in her storm. For the first time in a long time, someone saw her, not just as a mother, or a cleaner, or a struggling woman, but as a person. And that scared her more than anything. One quiet afternoon, Kendra heard a knock at the door. She opened it slowly, and her heart dropped. Marcus stood there, looking the same. Tired eyes, forced charm, and that coldness still hiding behind his smile. "I need a favor," he said. like nothing had ever happened. Kendra froze. He wasn't here to check on Liam or Arya. He didn't ask about the kids. Instead, he handed her a letter and said he was being investigated for fraud at his old job. He needed her to tell the police he was with her on the date in question. "You want me to lie?" she asked, shocked. He stepped closer. "It's just one little thing. You do this, and I'll stay out of your life." Kendra's stomach turned. He was doing it again, showing up only when he needed something. No apology, no concern, just manipulation. When she hesitated, he got angry. "If I go to jail, what happens to the kids? You think the court won't look at your life? 2 jobs, no real support, late picking up the kids, no money. I could take them." Kendra's hands shook. Fear crawled up her spine. Later that week, David asked her if she wanted to get coffee. He was kind and gentle, like always. But Kendra said no. "I can't," she whispered. "Why?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. She just walked away. The truth was, she didn't feel good enough. How could someone like David, stable and kind, care for someone like her, a woman with a messy past, 2 kids, and a storm always hanging above her head? That same week, Liam and Arya saw David again. He had dropped off a small toy car for Liam and a little paint set for Arya. Their faces lit up like sunshine. They hugged him tightly, and Kendra's heart ached. The kids adored him already. It made her panic. She told Jade about everything. Marcus, the lie, David, the fear. Jade didn't hold back. "You're not the same woman anymore, Kendra. You've survived. You've raised those kids on your own. You don't owe Marcus anything. And you don't have to push David away." Kendra stood up suddenly. "You don't get it. I'm tired. I'm scared all the time. What if he finds out everything and walks away? What if the kids get attached and he leaves? What if he sees what Marcus saw and leaves too?" Tears spilled from her eyes. She dropped onto the couch, her voice cracking. "No man will love me if he knows the truth." Jade sat beside her and held her hand. "Kendra," she said gently, "if he's the right man, he'll stay. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real." But Kendra couldn't believe it. Not yet. She started pulling away from David. She stopped replying to his texts. She avoided him at work. She felt embarrassed about her past, her broken marriage, and her messy life. She told herself she was protecting him, protecting herself, and protecting the kids. But really, she was afraid. David noticed. One night he caught her leaving work and walked with her to the bus stop. He didn't try to pressure her. He didn't ask too many questions. He just said, "Whatever you're going through, you don't have to face it alone." Kendra didn't reply. She couldn't. The fear in her chest was too heavy. But later, after the kids were asleep, she stood in the hallway and cried quietly. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe someone could care for her without wanting anything in return. But Marcus's words were still in her head, still poisoning her heart. The next morning, she looked at her children's faces and knew she had to make a choice: keep running or take a small, brave step forward. Kendra sat alone at a small table in the back of an old cafe. Her hands were cold and her stomach was tight with nerves. She had agreed to meet Marcus, even though every part of her said not to. He had called and begged, saying it was urgent, that he needed just 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, she said yes. When Marcus walked in, he looked calm, even relaxed. He smiled like he still had power over her. He slid into the seat across from her and placed a paper on the table. "It's just a statement," he said. "It says I was with you that night. Sign it, and this all goes away." Kendra stared at the paper. Her heart pounded. "You want me to lie to the police? I want you to help me," he said smoothly. "We have history. You owe me." "Owe you," Kendra said, her voice shaking. "You left me alone with 2 kids. Marcus leaned in closer, his voice turning sharp. "I can make your life hard, Kendra. If I go down, I'm taking you with me. You're barely holding it together as it is. A judge could decide you're unfit." She froze. "You wouldn't." "I would," he said coldly. "Do you want to lose your kids?" Tears filled her eyes. Her hand reached for the pen slowly. Her mind raced. She felt trapped again, just like she used to. Small, scared, stuck. Then, suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. "You're not signing anything," David said, stepping into the cafe. Kendra turned, shocked. Jade was with him too, her arms crossed, eyes sharp and protective. Marcus stood up, furious. "What is this?" David didn't yell. He didn't lose control. He looked Marcus straight in the eye and said firmly, "The only burden I see is a coward who walked away from his children. Marcus laughed bitterly. This fool thinks he wants you now. Wait till he sees what a mess you are. What a burden you've become. Kendra stood up slowly. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady. No, she said. You don't get to talk to me like that anymore. You don't own my story. Not now, not ever. She tore the paper in half and dropped it on the table. Marcus's face twisted in anger. You're making a mistake. No, she said. I made a mistake believing you for so long. Jade stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Kendra's back. David didn't say anything more. He just opened the door and waited. Kendra walked out of that cafe with her head high, her heart still pounding. But for the first time in years, it wasn't out of fear. It was strength. She didn't look back. Kendra sat on the witness stand in court, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. She told the truth about Marcus, about what he asked her to do, how he tried to scare her, and the pain he caused in the past. Marcus didn't look at her. He just stared at the table in front of him. After she finished, the judge nodded and thanked her. Kendra stepped down and walked out of the courtroom. A few weeks later, the news came. Marcus was indicted. He would face the consequences of his actions. He wasn't coming back to hurt her anymore. Kendra felt lighter, like a heavy chain had finally been broken. After that day, David didn't call or visit much. He didn't disappear completely, but he gave her space. He knew she needed time to heal. Sometimes he texted just to say, "Hope the kids are doing well," or "Thinking of you today." He didn't push. He waited. Kendra focused on rebuilding her life. She signed up for night classes at the community college. It had been years since she'd thought about school, but something inside her said it was time. She wanted to study early childhood education, to help other kids the way her own had needed help. It wasn't easy. She still worked long hours. She still had bills and laundry and tired mornings. But now, she had hope. And slowly, things got better. Liam and Aria started smiling more. They laughed louder. Aria loved drawing again, and Liam kept building towers out of blocks and proudly showing them off. They both seemed to breathe easier, like the sadness in the house had faded. One sunny Saturday, Kendra planned a small family picnic at the park. She made sandwiches, packed juice boxes, and brought a blanket. That morning, she sent a message to David. "Picnic at the park. You're welcome to join." He replied almost right away. "I'd love to." He came with a soft smile and a bag full of surprise gifts. Sketchbooks and crayons for Aria, a puzzle, and toy car for Liam. The kids ran to him with happy shouts, and he knelt down to greet them like an old friend. They spent the afternoon under the trees, laughing, eating, and playing. Kendra watched her children smile and felt peace fill her chest. David didn't try to talk about the past. He didn't ask for anything. He was just there, kind, patient, present. Kendra looked at him and thought, maybe healing doesn't mean forgetting everything. Maybe it means choosing what comes next. She was still on her journey, but she wasn't walking alone anymore. Not because someone came to save her, but because she had saved herself and finally opened the door to let someone good in. Kendra sat on the porch with a soft blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The sun was setting and the sky was painted with soft orange and pink. Her daughter Aria ran through the yard, laughing, while Liam chased her with a toy airplane. Their laughter was light, full of joy. It was peaceful. For the first time in a long while, Kendra felt calm. David stepped outside holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Kendra without saying a word and sat beside her. They didn't need to talk right away. Just sitting there, side by side, was enough. They watched the children play for a few minutes. The air was warm, and a gentle breeze moved through the trees. Kendra took a slow sip of her coffee, then turned to him with a small smile. "You were wrong, you know," she said softly. David looked at her, curious. About what? She looked back at the yard, where her kids were still running and laughing. "That no one would want a woman with kids," she said. "Turns out, the right man did." David smiled, quiet and warm. He didn't need to say anything. They sat there in silence, the kind that feels safe. Kendra leaned back in her chair, eyes soft, heart open. The pain wasn't gone, but it no longer controlled her. She had chosen this life, this peace, this love, and now it was hers. Fade to quiet, fade to peace. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, if you saw a part of yourself in it, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps share these stories with others who might be struggling in silence. And if you know someone who needs hope, share this with them. Stay with us. The videos on the end screen may be exactly what your heart needs next.